Now, without further ado, let us hear Zuzi. Zuzi, are you
Hello,
there? Ready?
everyone.
Good.
I'll share my screen.
Excellent.
Let's see. Magic, right? All
You've
right.
got the wheels.
So,
Go ahead.
Agile leadership. So, a little bit about me before we start, right? So, I'm the author of the two books, Agile Leader, which is new, and Great Scrum Master, which is a bit older. But if you're interested about what I've been talking here about, those stories, there are more in those books. No, but I want to share and start with a story. Because at the end of the day, stories will change organizations. That's what is important. Stories are catchy. You need to share those stories, right? So one summer afternoon, 2010, I was given 3 departments of developers, testers, and hardware guys. And I was asked to form a new single department of engineering out of them. The department with high collaboration and flexibility and ability to build cross-functional teams. So, and I also was asked to come up with my own idea. How do I want to run this new department? So I went home, sit down at the garden, and think about it. You know, this image of 100 people coming every day with questions, requests, approvals. Can you tell me what shall I do next? Can you decide what is the next step? Can you approve my vacation? It was overwhelming. And I felt tired, even before I started. It felt like weather before the storm, and I started to think about the names and hierarchy. The next day brought a new energy, and I got the courage to present later that week a very different structure based on self-organizing teams, with only Scrum Masters and no managers. To give you a bit of context, right? Our chairman was a short man over his 60s, low voice, no hair, typical traditional manager with a hierarchy hard-coded in his DNA. He always wearing a suit, keeping distance, and you feel he could never be wrong. So the next week, I was back with my presentation, excited, but also nervous. But he's been clearly in a good mood, making jokes, and then he started this meeting, saying like, let's start with the engineering structure. We need to know who do you expect to be at the management roles. Management? I don't have any management in my, what should I do? And then I started. So you asked me to come up with my own vision of this department, but let me first summarize the goals we need to achieve with this new department. So we want a flexibility, faster learning, and ability to come up with innovative solutions. Is that right? So I did a research about similar companies and came up with a flat structure based on self-organizing teams and no management. No management? Yes, no management, because no management is actually enabler of empowerment and motivation and creativity, and it emerged from this agile structure. So you want to make us agile, huh? Yes. Let's try that. After all, we said we want to change. We want to be a modern organization which attracts people, and to tell you the truth, I don't remember the rest. He just said yes to my crazy idea of this very different structure he's been got used to. And he's been struggling a lot with this. And I still don't really know why did he said yes, because he didn't like it. It was not his nature thing. Part of it, I think, was that I was able to link it to the strategic goals. I was able to tell them why are we doing it. Flexibility, faster learning, more innovations. And those were the real goals. No one cares about Agile. No one cares about no management. They care about the outcome. So my first tip for today, Agile is not your goal. It's just the best way, in my personal opinion, how to achieve your goals. Keep that in mind. Now, how many of you in your organizations are starting Agile just because somebody said, hey, there is a new method, do it. There is a new Scrum guide, apply it. So now I want to use your wisdom. Think about your organizations. And I would like to ask you to go to menti.com and put this code in. And I will show the other screen, which is showing the Menti right now. This is the right starting. The code is still on the top. So if you go to menti.com and use that code, then you can write us what are your goals. Why would you change the way you work? And we see a few things. Better communication, faster delivery, predictability, effectiveness, productivity. I would like to be happy, to continuously improve, alignment, quality, time to market, speed, happy, to continuously improve, and that's really already. More value to customers. Efficiency and improve is winning so far. Predictability. Better communication, somebody said. Reduce workload. Nice. I'll share with you the outcome so you can still keep answering if you didn't finish it yet, right? But I'll go back to the story and tell you what's next, right? So we are there. So how such transformation really happened, right? So that's my artistic picture of Agile organization, of a traditional organization. So of a traditional organization, that's the org chart with all those managers and hierarchies, etc. You all know it, I think, at least most of us work in it. Now, when you start organizational change, well, you create those yellow dots of different way of working. Maybe more team spirit over individual-oriented environments. Maybe some self-organization over there. But at some other places, you might be more process-oriented and improve some lean or Kanban or Scrum or scaling frameworks, right? Extreme programming practices, pair programming, thousands of things, but you start experimenting. And all those tiny low dot experiments, if you do that well, they create like a snowball effect. So sooner or later, there are many of those because people like it. They want to try to work in a better way. They want some innovations and they want to do that thing which those guys can do now and we don't. But it actually creates a quiet disconnect. It's like a washing machine. All those things like traditional structures and processes and also those managers there are moving completely disconnected with what the teams are doing. And it's definitely not a nice place to be at, but it's inevitable. It's always there. How do you know? Well, what my manager, the chairman of the board, was always coming back to me and saying like, "I don't know, but who is responsible?" Responsible. Well, the team is. No, the team can't be responsible. Okay. So at the end of the day, I'm responsible. It's like, no, you can't be responsible for everything. So it was never-ending conversation. All those questions which were sort of irrelevant to the new way of working, but he's been still asking them. And then if you do that for a while and sustain, then eventually that washing machine will click together and like those yellow dots go around those black dots and they become one all together. And it's calm. It's like moving, like a wind, like a calm sea. Constantly looking for better ways. But actually there is no friction anymore. And that's where the Agile organization is born. It's not just one Agile team, which is crazy and everybody pointing finger to them. That's actually who we are. We are a creative, collaborative, and adaptive network. But because that's too abstract for people, I was looking for a better explanations of Agile organization. And I came up with another one, which was like, it's a living organism, you know, those pieces of that organization, like one hand and the other hand are connected to each other. You can't go that way here and that way there. That's too far, you can't split, right? You're connected somehow. But that was not really helpful either. People found it too abstract. They say, yeah, but it's weird, that's weird. That's okay. So I took another metaphor. I took it from Steve Denning, from one of his presentations, but that one really works. He always says that the traditional organization could be described as a tanker boat, a big ship. There's a captain on the top giving the orders. While the Agile organization is more like a flotilla of small boats. But then if you have a small boats, you must have something which brings them together. Otherwise, one boat goes fishing and the other one goes swimming and the other one just do the racing to the island and back. Purpose. Organizational purpose. Now, look back at your organization. What is your purpose of your organization? Do you know? Can you phrase it? And if you can, what would happen if that organization is gone tomorrow like this? Would you miss it? Do you feel sorry? Because that purpose will never become true or not. And if it's not strong enough, they go better fishing, swimming, racing. But if it's actually strong enough, they help each other. They might have their own tiny missions, but they might say, hey, don't go that way because there was a strong wind from the west. It's too risky. Take it the other way, right? One purpose. Now, what really needs to change? Leaders need to change first. Now, I want to give you a disclaimer. I don't take leaders as managers. Otherwise, I would write here, managers need to change first. But leadership is a state of mind. It's only your decision if you would like to become a leader or not. It's only on you. Are you ready to take ownership? And do you have a courage to step in and say, hey, I'm here and I have this idea. Let's do it this way. Are you ready to be transparent about your intentions? And are you ready to hear feedback? Imagine you're at the kids' camp, right? And they have this one purpose, to steal the flag from the other group. Now, there might be some leaders emerging from that crowd saying, hey, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. And if they come up with a meaningful plan, the others will follow. There is no hierarchy implied in that group. The same way Agile organization works. So start acting differently. Start taking ownership, responsibility, and the organization will follow. So I have another question for you, and the number is same. So all you have to do is actually to wait until I move that question to the other one, hopefully. To the other one. What is the most important for leaders to change at their Agile journey? Right? You might need to do the refresh, I'm not sure, but it works for you. Usually it works without doing anything. So what is the most important for leaders to change on their Agile journey? Perspective, state of mind, mindset, control, trust, high-level communication, permission to fail, delegating decisions, culture, habits, empower others. Mindset is the winner so far. In two forms, actually, but still the winner. Trust. Charisma, outlook, attitude, openness. And again, you can continue answering. I'll share that end result screen at the end. We'll see what is there. Charisma, transparency. Now how, right? That's the most common question I'm getting at this point of a time. Like, how should I change? And those people feel like they have a square instead of head, think like, I don't know what to do. What shall I do? What does that mean? So I talk about culture for ages. My first talk at the conference was about culture. And it's still abstract for people. So eventually I came up with this vision of a clam, this sea creature, right? It has two halves and it's sort of going up and far away and closer and far away. And sometimes it can click, right? Like this. And then it starts opening again. If you put it aside, it dies. The same thing with culture, right? It has two parts, mindset and structure. The structure pieces are more tangible, easier to be measured. It's about structure, strategy, decision-making process, power tactics. It's also about roles and positions and this career path and how do we hire exactly and what is the reward system, bonuses, how do we decide on salaries. Also about the processes, governance, guidance, rules, policies, measurements. And then you have the other half, mindset, speaking more about people behavior, their habits, responsibility. Are they self-organizing or not? Do they take ownership? What is the organizational purpose? Can we say it? Do we care about it? Identity, our values, beliefs. Do we trust each other? Are we open? Are we transparent? Are we collaborate? What is the level of safety? Now, in many organizations, just to have flexibility. So in many organizations, you can actually start working on the mindset without necessarily changing the structure first. Because changing the structure is scary to the traditional management. They don't know what to do, they rely on it. So what I've been doing most of my working life was actually working on mindset first and showing the organization that actually the structure is irrelevant. Why do you need it, right? What are you doing with those measurements? So now you are measuring this. Cool, keep measuring it, but it will start working differently. And in this new world, those measurements are irrelevant. You don't need to use them. They are useless. And then, only then, the structure can follow the mindset, right? Like this. On the other hand, there are organizations where the structure was actually squeezing the mindset so much, so we have to go to the HR and change the positions first. Because otherwise the people would say, no, I'm not doing it. Right. So keep those two in mind. They need to be in some sort of a harmony, some sort of a balance all the time, going far and closer and far and closer and far and closer. You can never disconnect them from each other. Then one of those other things is what I learned, that organizations are unpredictable. They are complex systems. They are not behaving according to those processes. They're supposed to, but they are often doing things very differently. So in a complex system, which is unpredictable by definition, and they have ambiguity, so there are many different solutions, and it's very hard to say which one is optimal or good, because there is actually no good, no wrong. You can imagine your work as going to the observation tower and looking at the organization from 10,000 feet distance and see all the perspectives. And what actually looks great from this side of that organization might look actually quite the opposite, really bad from here. From developer standpoint, it looks really cool because it was efficient, it's working, but from tester perspective, it's not because it's hard to test, etc., etc., etc. So you need to be less open to see different perspectives, listen to the voice of a system. Then acknowledge that there is no right, no wrong. It's hard to judge, hard to assess. There is no right or wrong exist in a complex system. And the third one, there's the positivity. In fusion, everyone is right, but only partial. So the question is, can you look at the organization that way without evaluating? There is no right, no wrong. Oh, that's so fascinating. So many voices, so many perspectives. They are conflicting, they are different. What if I look at it that everyone is right, but only partially? What it brings me and what it can help me to do? So being agile leader, it's a lot about having a vision. And now I'm not speaking about the product vision, but I'm speaking about the organizational vision, about the culture vision, about who we are vision. And if you have that well enough tied to everything else, it brings the motivation by itself. So can you motivate people? Can you make the best out of them? Because they say, oh, that's great. I want to achieve that. I want to be first on that island. We want to get their flag. Or whatever else. Feedback. Now, part of this is many people are saying, hey, I'm good at giving feedback. But that's not the most important part. I think even more important part is, are you listening for feedback? How many times, now look at you, right? How many times you learn from feedback you get from your peers? How many times you really change the way you work based on that? And how many times you say, yeah, they don't get it. I know better than them. They didn't understand that, right? Learning from feedback, that's a tough one. On the two sides, decide and collaborate, right? The traditional management is about deciding or delegating. But the delegating is, again, part of it is your decision. But can you collaborate? Can you become part of a team, like a team member, with no additional power? Can you enhance collaboration? And on the right side, coaching and facilitation. Can you actually help those ecosystems to work in an efficient way? And finally, the bottom part is about change. Anyone can change the organization. You just need to have a passion, vision of it, be able to motivate the other people, learn from feedback because you never got it right on the first round, decide at the right moments, collaborate with the other ones, coach and facilitate, right? But you can change the organization. It's only in your hands. You don't need anybody else to do that. And the change has like 3 segments, right? The first one is changing through changing yourself, becoming a role model. And that's the toughest one, at least for me, because it means you need to be consistent. When I started to build this flat structure, and I told them, hey, you are empowered to make your own decisions, then I can't go in and say, hey, do it this way this time, because we don't have time. They would be very inconsistent, and I would break their trust. And when I did it, and I did, by the way, a couple times, I always shifted the entire environment quite a long time back. And then it took me a lot of effort to build it again. And tell me, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. And actually, the ability to take the feedback, which they gave me, and be able to say, okay, you're right, my mistake. Next time, I'll do it differently. Right? Was crucial. But you need to become a role model. It's all in your hands, how you behave in those type of situations. Then you can change through working with other people, like facilitation, coaching, and creating an environment where they can actually be successful with their collaboration, etc. And finally, that's the system view. Can you see that organization as a system, as this network of collaborative entities, teams in it? And can you work with it in a comfortable way? So those are the competencies. Then one of those other things I like on my journey is this book, Tribal Leadership. So I would recommend you to read it if you're curious about how to change the mindset of the organization. So they say pretty much there are 5 different tribes, as they call it, the stages. And they always say in every environment there is one tribe as major. So the first one says life sucks. Those are those people who just don't see the light. Everything is just bad. And you're smiling? Well, just because you're smiling, you don't get it. There is no light, uncle, right? No, don't tell me this. It's just this, right? And then if you go next, there is my life sucks. It's better. Because my life sucks. Because I have to be sitting here. But you guys are lucky because you're in all those wonderful places around the world. Or my life sucks because I have to drive to my office 2 hours each day. And you're more lucky than I am. So those people are much better because they already see light. Then you have a next stage saying, I'm great, and you're not. And that you're not is quite an important aspect there. On that ugly layer here, it says, I'm a manager here, and you're just an employee. On the nicer version of the traditional organizations, it actually says, well, you're the expert on Java 5.0. And I'm not, but actually I'm the expert on drawing the images. And somebody else is expert on figuring out which chairs are the best for this organization. So that's the over-specialization, where we actually try to make everybody an expert, everybody enjoy their own success. And that's the limit of traditional organizations, individual success. And it's quite a nice place to work at. It's an organization where they are happy, people are motivated, they feel confident that what they are doing makes sense. But that's the limit. Now, the next 2 Agile stars, because it says it's not about individuals, it's about teams. We are great. And it started with a small we, the team. We are a great team, and those other teams are not that good. I've been there, right? But now it's not about me anymore. I was able to say, okay, I'm done. It's about a team. Teams are important. And if you go next, further on, still we are great, but we are great as this organization. The other organizations are not that good. So the we could be bigger, right? And that's what Agile is generating. It generates this we spirit, this kind of collaborative culture where people help each other because they have the same goal. Smaller team or broader ecosystem eventually. And then the most interesting for me, at least, is the very rare one on the right-hand side saying life is great. Those people are like the same crazy as those who are saying life sucks, right? This time they're saying life is great. And when he asks them, what are the competitors? They say, what do you mean? There are no competitors. We just deal with cancer. Or we have this higher purpose to achieve. We have some other people who have a similar or same purpose, but we sometimes even help each other, right? We don't take them as competitors. So that's a very interesting mindset. That's the pure agility by mindset. Now, is it for every organization? Is it even your goal? Well, I don't think so. But it's good to know, because if you try to implement any agile way of working to major environment where people majorly say, my life sucks, I don't think you're going to be that much successful. They need to live their own individual success first to be ready for a team, to be ready to collaborate, to be ready to give up. This is an interesting book because another one, right? Turn the Ship Around, this time about the captain of a US Navy submarine. And why I have it here, because people often tell me like, yeah, what you're speaking about, that's very nice, but it will never work in our organization because we are a bank, or we are a big corporation, or we are critical or important. Oh, I say, maybe, guys, I don't know, maybe you're unique, but how about if you read that book? Because if they can do something like this on the Navy submarine, the most hierarchical environment I know, well, then maybe you can do it as well, right? In general, what they are saying, there are two types of leadership: the leader, follower. That's the leader, the captain on that ship, right? Giving orders. And the others follow. Yes, sir. The other one says they're leader. They all can come up with great creative ideas. How they deal with this implied hierarchy in an army, they actually come with ideas saying like, I intend to do this. So they've been coming with ideas. I intend to do this. While the captain was saying, yes, do it. Very different way of working and very interesting. It all started with a story where he first time came to that ship, right? And he said that if you want to be a captain on a submarine, you need to learn 2 years, every single detail about that submarine, because you're expected to give orders. You're expected to know everything. And he shared his story that after 1 year and a half, he's been actually told that he's not going to the super new submarine, but the super old one. It's a very demotivated crew. And he only got those 6 months to catch up. So he was doing his best, reading, educating, investigating. And then the first day he was in that test ride on that submarine with that crew, and he gave his first order. It happened. So he said, turn the switch A. The commander next to him said, turn the switch A. And then finally that person at the control room with all those buttons turned away and did nothing. Like, why didn't you do anything? He says, sorry, sir, but there is no switch A exists. Saying, did you know that? And the commandant next to him said, yes, sir. Why didn't you say anything? Like, he gave us an order. We are here to follow. So he said that was the game changer for him. He realized that he needs to do it differently. So no change is happening without a reason, just because you know there is a new method. And he knew it because he's been trained for it. It will not change your own behavior, your own beliefs. You understand it on the paper, but are you ready to do it? You need to create a sense of urgency, not only for the organization, but also for yourself. Do you really believe you can be successful without a change? And if you finally believe that, that's where your mind shifts. That's where you're ready to challenge your habits and work differently. I guess it's crazy enough. So, third tip, help others to become leaders and support the we culture in a complex world. Individuals can't come up with innovations or greatest ideas. Teams can. Teams are more successful in dealing with complexity. So, again, I have my last query here. Once I go here and shift it to the last one. How can you create great teams at your organizations, collaborative environments? What are your tips? Be honest, empower the team, listen, communication, business needs. Share common vision, professional, trust, flexibility, trust, communication, empowerment, so far winning. Communication, lead by example. Invite people together. Appreciation. Donuts. Respect. Accept failures. Small teams. Nice. So there is no real magic. Trust in the middle. Now, when I work with organizations, very often we start by fixing trust or improving it or making it higher. Trust is not a binary issue. It's actually a line. There is a different level of trust needed for people to trust them that you do your job, or trust you that you say the right things and you jump in when you see something, or trust that I can tell you whatever because I'm okay to be vulnerable. And every organization needs agile organization needs a different level of trust than traditional organization, right? And then once you make it completely flat structure, again, you need a higher level of trust. among people. So I would not be able to do that shift from departments to with managers to flat structure with Scrum Masters without a high level of trust. It was not ideal. And the only department where it didn't work was actually a department of 5 individuals with 1 manager. And he was the most bossy person we've got in the organization. And all of those practices we were suggesting for the biggest department of engineering, but also for the others, were also working pretty much. There have been some frictions at the beginning and some issues, but we fixed them. But with this department, they didn't trust each other. They didn't trust him. It was super tough. And at that time, I didn't know why. But actually nowadays, I would start in the middle. I would start with fixing a trust. How? Well, make it really simple. Any team building will help. Lisa was speaking before of one of my favorite concepts. Look at them as people. They are not roles. They are not people with tasks, like a task instead of person, right? They are people, human beings. Can you see them there? Do you know that that person has a kid and her boy is often ill and therefore she's often at home? And what does that mean to you? And you also know that you likes to go skiing. So sometimes you're off when there are great conditions and you just go ski, right? Now everybody has a different things. Can we see that? Can we give people trust? Did they do their best? So that's what needs to happen when you start with agility, higher level of trust. So, summary. 3 tips. Agile is not your goal. I would actually be really happy if in 2021 I would stop seeing organizations who say, we were pushed with this Agile, we don't want to do that. So why are you doing it? I don't care about it either, so stop, right? Or try to come up with a sense of urgency. What happens if you don't change? So what? You're not Agile, who cares about it? It's not your goal. It, in my mind, is just the best way how to achieve some of your strategic goals, be more innovative, creative, flexible, etc. But do you need it for your business? I don't know. I need it for mine. Quite sure about that. Leaders need to change first, so it's waiting for you guys. All of you are leaders. All of you can make a huge impact at your organization. All of you can start tomorrow. And finally, help others to become leaders and support the we culture. Time's over, so here is a link to my LinkedIn and some of our blogs and web pages. So if you like to connect with me, LinkedIn is a good place. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very, very much, Zuzi. It was, as always, a privilege to have you with such a interesting topic, okay, and so many insights. We're going to talk about it. Now, I will, as in any speaker, going to open a room in which we can go. Zuzi, I will be joining you as well, okay? So I'm going to open the room, and in parallel, we are going to have Erez.